Once upon a time, dictators gave you a dream, glory, equality, or paradise. Sure, there was a genocide or two, but they really knew how to sell it with great posters, cool uniforms, and parades. They were like influencers, but better. But today's dictators don't sell you any of those. They sell indifference.
But we still offer the classics: censorship, fear, and involuntary defenestration.
Plus, our new AI feature has 99.9% accuracy. Unless you're a critic, then it's 100%.
Let's see how they poison your faith in democracy, how they build a system of mutual guilt and silence, and how they survive, not by fear, but through global protection scams disguised as diplomacy. Let's break it down, starting with how dictators used to stay in power. So imagine Stalin trying to sell you a new phone.
Introducing the new iGulag. It's faster, smarter, always listening, like the KGB but with better battery life. Want one? Huh? I dare you to say no.
That's how old-school dictators operated. The Soviet Union promised the workers' paradise. No rich, no poor, just fairness. Enforced with tanks, of course. Fascists in Italy and Germany promised glory and national pride. And Gaddafi pitched a utopia of free housing and oil for the people.
This is a green book. Green is my favorite color. Also, my favorite part is on page 47, where I kindly and democratically ask you to like and subscribe to this channel. And if you go against me, I will carpet bomb you. Anyway, bye cuties.
Of course it was usually a lie, but it was a well-dressed lie. But today's dictators don't even bother. They don't offer a dream. They just say,
Democracy is like a group chat with 300 million people arguing over brunch. I shut mine down. Now it's just me texting myself. You're doing great, Vladi. And I always reply, thank you, Vladi.
According to Applebaum, a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian and journalist known for her work on authoritarian regimes, in Autocracy Inc. she writes, modern autocracies no longer need to offer a better alternative. They just need to make democracy look corrupt, chaotic, and pointless. So instead of saying, here's a shiny new phone, they say,
your phone sucks. Everyone's phone sucks. Why even have a phone? In fact, give me your phone.
And if you're watching this, you're probably thinking, why is this guy obsessed with phones? Because that's how today's dictators operate. Modern dictators like Putin, Xi Jinping, Erdoğan, or Orbán don't need you to love them. They just need you to hate the idea of democracy. And how do they do that? Well, first, they flood the world with confusion. Take Russia's disinformation playbook during the Ukraine war. According to the US Department of Justice, they didn't just back one side. They created fake pro-Russia and fake pro-Ukraine accounts. Why? To make everyone turn on Ukraine and trust no one, including Russia, because no one does anyway. They pushed conspiracies like Ukraine is full of Nazis, Ukraine bombed itself, or even the war isn't real. It's all made up by the mainstream media. They also appealed to both extremes in Western politics. So to the far right, Russia said,
Ukraine is a woke, gay, and NATO-sponsored satanic orgy with too many Jews, and Zelensky's an Arab.
And to the far left, Russia said,
Ukraine is a capitalist puppet state run by NATO, Coca-Cola, and, get this, a literal Nazi named Zelensky.
So Zelensky is a gay, Arab, Nazi, Jewish globalist puppet running a satanic orgy?
Da.
As you see, the goal isn't to convince you of one idea, but to make you give up on the idea of truth altogether. That's what Steve Bannon once described as flooding the zone with shit. Then, there's tactic number 2, whataboutism. So let's say someone criticizes human rights abuses in China or Russia. Instead of denying it, they go,
what about America's racism?
What about Iraq?
And what about Guantanamo Bay?
For example, when the US accused China of detaining over 1 million Uyghurs Muslims in re-education camps, China pulled a reverse UNO card, accusing the US of racism and police brutality. And yes, racism exists in democracies like the US. It's real, it's harmful, and it ruins lives. But let's be clear, police brutality and systemic bias, as serious as they are not the same as mass imprisonment, forced sterilizations, and high-tech ethnic surveillance. In the US, racism is exposed, debated, protested, and at least in theory, subject to the law. In China, even blinking about what's happening can get you jailed.
There are no mass internments, just vocational training centers, and no one is being sterilized. We're simply helping them plan their families more efficiently.
Applebaum puts it simply, dictators no longer defend themselves. They just say you're just as bad as we are. And then there's the third tactic, fuel division and hopelessness. Take Viktor Orbán in Hungary. He doesn't bother selling a vision anymore. There's no future, just fear. he floods the media, which he owns, with stories about rising crime in Europe, refugee invasions, and EU elite snorting cocaine of gender pronouns. The message?
Everyone's lying to you, but not me. I'm just here to keep your family safe. From facts.
In the US, Russian troll farms did the same. They spread fake stories about BLM, COVID, and election fraud. The goal was not to convince, just to divide and exhaust. And why is that so dangerous? Because they want democracy to die in your head before it dies in real life. But confusion and cynicism is just one front. Another front is building a system where corruption isn't the exception, it's the rule. Of course, everybody knows that countries under authoritarian rule are packed with bribes, shady backdoor deals, and stolen money. And that's actually the whole point. That's not a flaw in the system. That is the system. And by the way, corruption doesn't make these governments weaker. In many cases, it's exactly what makes them work.
If by working you mean blaming gay people for the weather while I steal billions and call it patriotism, then yes.
So why does corruption make autocratic countries stronger? Well, journalist Tom Burgess, an award-winning investigative reporter known for his work on global corruption and kleptocracy, and author of Kleptopia, puts it mildly. It's not a conspiracy of individuals. It's a system held together by shared complicity. In other words, everyone's guilty just enough to be stuck. That's what keeps the system airtight. For example, a police officer might take a bribe to ignore a speeding ticket, a contractor inflates the cost of a project, then kicks back a chunk to a government official, or a minister signs off on a fake development programs but makes sure part of the stolen money goes up the ladder.
It's simple. You steal a little, you disappear. You steal a lot, you get a medal. You kick it upstairs, you get a palace.
And the way the structure protects itself is actually pretty clever. It works in two big ways. First comes mutual guilt. And with it, mutual silence. If everyone's in on it, even just a little, then nobody wants to speak up.
I always say...
Why does Brain of Salt always give you the line? I should be doing the propaganda too.
Yeah, me too. I deserve at least a catchphrase.
Fine. You both get to ask people to like and subscribe. Happy?
Boring but fine. Like and subscribe to Brain of Salt.
Yes, like and subscribe or I'll legally redefine you as a protest.
Next comes horizontal blackmail and vertical loyalty, a setup that keeps everyone in check from the bottom to the top. So horizontal blackmail is basically,
you saw me steal, I saw you steal, so let's keep quiet.
And vertical loyalty is basically,
steal a little, pass it up, and get protection.
It's like a twisted version of,
don't bite the hand that feeds you. I also know where your family sleeps.
And if you want to see this in action, just look at Russia under Putin. For example, Alexei Navalny, the opposition leader, exposed massive fraud in government contracts. His investigations laid out exactly how the system works, naming names, tracing money, and pulling back the curtain. But here's the thing, whistleblowers like him don't just threaten Putin. They threaten everyone from local officials to billionaires oligarchs. Because corruption isn't just at the top, it's woven through every level.
He left Russia healthy, got sick in Berlin, and we made him healthy.
Oh yeah? Where is he now?
Putin in the Kremlin.
No, I meant Navalny.
I just told you Putin is in the Kremlin. Are you deaf or what?
And that's why the system reacts so aggressively. Putin might not even need to know about it. He doesn't have to give a direct order or even bother. The people below him already understand that protecting the system means protecting themselves. And that's also why if Putin were ever toppled, it would be extremely hard to prove he personally gave the green light for anything. The system is designed to insulate him by default. And that's why these regimes stay stable, even when everyone sees the rot. Which leads us to the next part of the story, where dictators no longer just rely on Western lawyers, PR firms, and polite handshakes with democratic leaders. Now, some of them are also buying protection from fellow dictators. Take Ilham Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan. He used to stash his wealth in London, and now he's investing heavily in Turkey, which is run by another dictator, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. Why? Because it's safer, and it buys him something money can't buy in the West: loyalty.
Okay, but seriously, if I shaved my head and lost the mustache, wouldn't I look like Gru from Despicable Me? But sound like Borat.
Through Azerbaijan's state-owned company, SOCAR, Aliyev has pumped over $18 billion into Turkey. Like the Star Oil refinery in Izmir, this massive petrochemical plant called Petchem, and a bunch of big infrastructure projects like gas pipelines, shipping terminals, and even telecom networks. And in return, he gets political cover, a media that looks the other way, and a partner who won't ask inconvenient questions.
Of course, I ask inconvenient questions like, how's the family? Or did you sleep well?
And Aliyev isn't alone. Across the world, dictators are forming tight-knit alliances to legitimize and protect one another. Timothy Snyder, a renowned Yale historian and the author of the bestseller on tyranny, has written extensively about modern dictators. One example Snyder and others point to, these dictators give each other a stamp of approval. How? Well, when much of the world says,
"That guy's not a real president,"
Putin steps in and says,
No, he's totally legit. Did you see the turnout? 97% approval, baby.
it was literally proven to be a fraudulent election.
Yeah, you're right. The real number was 96.9. Thank you for your commitment to accuracy.
And Maduro does the same for him. It's like two villains writing each other 5-star TripAdvisor reviews just to stay in business. And of course, they swap favors. Putin helps Maduro with military support, loans, and oil deals. In return, Maduro sticks by him in international politics, votes with him at the UN, echoes his talking points, and shows the world he's not completely isolated. It's like,
You scratch my back?
And I'll scratch yours?
No, you'll defend me in front of 193 countries.
So now, you might be asking, why did the West turn on Putin, but not Aliyev, Erdoğan, Maduro, or other dictators? Well, for years, the West turned a blind eye to Putin. Even when he killed journalists, rigged elections, and hacked democracies like it was a weekend hobby. And the free world was like,
See no evil, hear no evil, and sell them luxury condos in London.
Turns out, if your corruption stays in your own borders or comes with oil and construction contracts, you're just a strategic partner. But in 2022, he went too far. Not just by invading a country or killing civilians, but by shaking the very foundations of the West's global system, economic stability, security, and international order. It was about strategic survival and not about defending democracy or human rights. But someone like Aliyev or Erdoğan, they haven't crossed the same red lines. At least not the ones the West chooses to enforce. Although Aliyev carried out an ethnic cleansing and Erdoğan's government helped facilitate ISIS's rise, for now, they still get to keep playing the game.
Hello, it's me again, Gru lookalike with Borat's voice, still bombing civilians, still open for business.
So, what do you think? If they don't need to convince you, just exhaust you, how do you stay awake? If ethnic cleansing doesn't cross the line, what does? And can democracy survive in a world that profits from its failure? Please let us know what you think in the comments.